On Real America's Voice. That's Dish Channel 219. It's Comcast Channel 113. It's also a streaming service. It's the streaming service of the Trump Revolution. Newsmax TV, now in 70 million homes. G News and GTV in Mandarin concurrently, blown through the VPN throughout the known world. Makes us one of the biggest shows in the world. We get into mainland China. And of course, for every Pluto, all the other distribution platforms, we're honored to be up on things like the Donald and these other sites. But of course, our original home, and we started with the John Fredericks Radio Network. We're now on with John Fredericks. He has now shifted his flag to 48 hours in Georgia and Atlanta, and John Fredericks got him totally vapor locked. One of the biggest liberal papers in the country, the paper that made Jimmy Carter president, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I think, is it the Cox family? I think it's the Cox family.
The Cox family owns it, yes.
The Cox family. By the way, episode 490, we're here on episode 490, over 18 million downloads on the podcast, and we're ubiquitous everywhere. Not just you can't get the podcast. Free everywhere. We never charge anybody. All we're about is getting the content out to everybody. You're on the pirate ship. This is irregular warfare. This is not. We're not standard army. This is irregular warfare. So you're with the Rangers here, right? Yeah, the special forces. Irregular warfare. You're on the pirate. Now, special force 2 squared away. We're a pirate ship. And John Fredericks is like our Bluebeard or Blackbeard or what. Fredericks, you're down there stirring up trouble, and there's trouble to be stirred up. Georgia, and this is what I love about the group we have. We always try to be ahead of the curve. Like Wellington said, what's on the other side of the hill? That's who used to train his young officers down in the peninsula when they were fighting Napoleon's army before they came back here and got crushed by Andrew Jackson. You're always looking ahead. Georgia's the center. We got to win Georgia. We're going to win Arizona. We just got North Carolina today. We'll get Alaska tonight or tomorrow. Arizona's coming our way. That's why they're slow walking the last 70,000 votes, right? It's taking forever. You know it's only good news for Trump, and they don't want to report that because they'll get the long faces. Georgia is a unique thing. And here's what's so disappointing about Georgia. It's run by Republicans, except for, I realize Fulton County and some of the cities are not, but it's overseen by Republicans. They had this problem, and Stacey Abrams saw what the problem was. This is why I do admire her. She's a doer. She says, I'm going to raise $10 to $15 million. I'm going to put it 100% in ground game, and I'm going to turn this state, not purple, I'm going to flip this state and turn it blue. So we're jammed up in Georgia right now because of Stacey Abrams, and it appears some level of incompetence. Or tell us what's going on down there. Now that you're on the case, you can tell us what's happening in Georgia and how we're going to sort this thing out and get a count of actual real votes, fair votes, legal votes.
Fight. You know, Steve, before I get into the detail, can I just say this? I've been with this movement for 5 years, and so have you. And I have to say that today, November 10th, is the first day that I felt that the entire Trump movement, the America First movement, 71 million people, MAGA, that voted for Trump, I really felt today that everybody came together. I've really never seen anything like this movement now. And you know what? It's easy to have a movement when you win, and everybody's excited about it, like 4 years ago when we were all celebrating. It's a lot tougher when you're losing and you're about to face annihilation with Joe Biden and them taking over the Senate. And to see the MAGA movement coming together in the last 24 hours, from my vantage point here in the South, in Georgia since I've been here, is really one of the most exciting, inspiring things I've ever seen. And quite frankly, yes, you're one of the leaders of this, Steve, because you have kept the fire going. And I cannot keep up with my phone, with the number of call-ins that we have, the number of people. I mean, I'm getting establishment Republicans, driving down to Buckhead to be on my show, and they want to fight. I've never seen Republicans want to fight this way in my lifetime. Normally, they want to quit. Now, the Secretary of State, Rafflesberger, he wants to quit. The Lieutenant Governor wants to quit. They want to throw the towel in and the next day back Nikki Haley in 2024. That's their goal, but they're not letting them. Let me tell you what the congressional delegation, the Republican GOP congressional delegation in Georgia did today. They sent a scathing letter to Rafflesberger, Secretary of State, who's a Republican. And they said, look, we have received reports of deceased or ineligible voters casting ballots. We have received reports of eligible voters being denied, not by the tens or the hundreds. We have over 1,000 of these. They said the Republican poll watchers have denied access. They want a complete review of the allegations. They want it now. And they said, if you don't do it, then we need you to resign so we can put somebody in who can. This is the Republican congressional delegation. I've never seen this kind of a response against another Republican. Normally we just fold our tent and do the Nikki Haley two-step shuffle or the Romney or the Richard Nixon 1960. We cave. That's what we do. Republicans cave. But this MAGA movement is different. It's created a spine. And Steve, I tell you what, the enthusiasm, people are more enthused today than they were a week before November 3rd. I've never seen anything like it in my life. When they get to the bottom of this, everybody in the know was telling me George is going to go in Trump's column. But it sets the stage for January 5th, which is the runoff of these two senators. And I tell you what, our people here, the MAGA, America First voters, the elected officials, I've never seen people come together like I have in the last 24 hours since I've been here. And they're afraid. When you've got the Atlanta Journal-Constitution complaining about John Fredericks coming to Atlanta, I've been here 2 days with Steve Bannon. I mean, give me a break. I've been here 2 days, Steve. I got here Sunday at midnight, and they're already freaking out because they know, Steve, we have the movement, we have the people, and they're fired up.
Here's the thing. For all the audience out there, here's the watchword. It's happening. You can feel it. You can feel a change today. You can feel a change today that everybody's coming together, different aspects of this. We got DOJ, you got Mike Pompeo, you got Grassley, you got establishment guys down there. Remember from Thomas Paine, and this is why you see this feeling now of people come together, the American crisis. Summer soldiers and sunshine patriots. We've broomed those guys out. They've all want to quit. That's the Chris Christies and all these guys and the Nikki Haley's wanted to do they did the eulogies last week. They partnered in Mitt Romney. They are summer soldiers and sunshine patriots. Ladies and gentlemen, to close on the victory, we're going to have not just a lot of choppy water. This is going to be a fight down to the end. They're already sitting there. They're going to law firms. They're trying to dox people. You know, the Lincoln Project got taken off today for doxing guys. They're going to get nasty, but you're never going to have another job. You're never going to have another sponsor. You're never going to have another advertiser. They're going to take people like Midge off there so they can't make a living as influencers. It's all going to happen. We got a lot of tough territory to cross. But right now we're burning off the summer soldiers and the sunshine patriots. You're getting down to the hardcores. You're getting down to the Rick Grinnells and the Don Juniors and the Eric Trumps, right? And the John Fredericks and the Jenny Beth Martins, right? And the Maggie Vanderbergs. You're getting down to the people who are not going to back down a minute, that support this movement, the Boris Epsteins, the Brian Kennedys, the people coming up to microphones, the people out in these states, the people putting in the time in law firms, the people doing the analytical work that we're crowdsourcing. They're not going to, the Peter Navarros, they're not going to quit. And this is why the left is getting nervous right now. This thing just won't go away. All the threats and all their bigfooting the media, it's not going to work. You're not going to back us down, okay? We're going to count every legal vote, and then we'll see who wins. We know who wins because our votes were legal, all 71 or 70 million, 0.5 million, right? And yours weren't. And you're not going to be able to prove it. That's where you're trying to hide under the darkness of night. So, John Fredericks, tell us what to expect out of Georgia in the next couple of days. You got an implosion down there, but a new thing's aborting. This movement, this is what the power of the 96-mile caravan in Arizona was. This is what the Latino and Hispanic community in South Florida, 30,000 people self-organizing because they had lived under the totalitarian dictatorships of communism, and they saw the cultural Marxism that was coming up in June, in July. Right, in certain elements of Black Lives Matter and all of Antifa. And they said, well, I don't want to do that. I'm going to vote for this guy Trump. Right? You see the beginning of a great awakening. That was the 54,000 people in the coldness of Butler, Pennsylvania, a little town, a hamlet of 12,000 people. This is a great awakening. And now in this fight, we don't have to worry about the ribbon clerks. They're all gone. Because they don't have the guts and the stamina and the stick-to-itiveness and just the plain old American cussedness. The same grit and determination that turned this from a vast wilderness into the greatest nation in the history of the earth that has created more wealth, freed more people than any nation on earth in the whole history of the earth. We're finally able to honor those who came before us by fighting for this. And we're not going to back down. I don't care what Jake Tapper says. I don't care what Rachel Maddow says. I don't care what Jack Dorsey does. You think that matters to any of us? We don't care. Give me a break. Give me a break. You're fighting for the greatest country that ever existed, for an individual in all his flawed, imperfect nature stands up for what's the best of this country. And Mike Pompeo said it so good today, so well. Hey, we're doing a transition to a second term. Meltdown. So, Fredericks, tell me, you've already got their heads blown up. Walk us through Georgia, because I'm telling you, Georgia, there's something aborting in Georgia that in its granularity is going to speak for the whole thing. It's going to be the thing itself. So what's going on there?
Well, the first thing is, who's woke now? They were woke then. We're woke now. The movement is woke. I've never seen people come together like this. In Georgia, the party is splitting. Good. Out of the ashes shall rise the phoenix. What you're going to see in Georgia is you're going to see this Secretary of State, this feckless weasel, Brad Raffensperger, stands for nothing, trying to get on the Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, Mitt Romney bandwagon and get good editorials in the Atlanta Constitution. You're going to see him blown up. He is going to have to do exactly what he's being asked to do. We're going to get a hand-to-hand recount of 6 million ballots. I mean, that's never been done. This is what is being demanded of him. He can't get out of this. You're going to have a press conference in the next 2 days with several congressional members demanding that Brian Kemp, the governor, who wouldn't be there without Donald Trump and his supporters, that Brian Kemp call a special session and address this loophole coming up in this Senate race where people can fly into Georgia, go to St. Simon's Island, go to the beach one day, play golf the second day, register to vote the third day, vote for the Democrats, and fly back to San Francisco, which is what Andrew Yang has suggested and his supporters on Facebook. They're going to have to address that, turn that into some sort of a felony and go to court over that. All this is going to happen. The Democrats expected the Republicans here to fold. Ratzberger fold. The lieutenant governor folded their tent. Brian Kemp's nowhere to be found. He's hiding. But the grassroots is rising up. And if they want to stay in power, they're going to have to do this. Georgia is the epicenter. Georgia is the tip of the spear, as you say. Georgia is the state that is going to inspire everybody to get this going. And at the end of the day, Georgia's electoral votes, it's 16, are going to go in the hands of Donald Trump.
John Fredericks, we will check in tomorrow from the John Fredericks Radio Network now, planting the flag in Atlanta, Georgia, the second city of the South, in back of my hometown, Richmond, Virginia. John Fredericks, thank you very much. We're going to return with a dramatic reading by Jack Maxey of The American Crisis. Greg Mann's telling us what's going on out there in the world. Maggie's going to talk to us about the pirates. All next.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room. I'm Maggie Vandenberg. We are live in Washington, D.C., and yeah, we've got some updates here. On a personal note, my social media has been thwarted. My biggest following, which is on Instagram, of 225,000 loyal followers, I'm basically locked out. I'm unable to post. And it's wild because I actually messaged a friend out of the country and gave him my login information, and he was able to log into my account. So I sent him a video. So hopefully that will be up on my stories soon. just wanted to send a message out to everyone that I'm still in this fight. I'm not staying silent. If they try to shut me down and silence me, it's not because I don't believe in this mission or that I'm, in some way, doubting the legitimacy of what's going on right now. It's because they are absolutely trying to silence me and to silence the truth, as they are doing with this show as well. The other thing I wanted to make everyone aware of is something else really interesting happened today online. So some people have been seeing these posts for a march that has been organized and is happening in Washington this Saturday at noon at our Capitol. And actually this march, it's kind of been getting a little bit of traction. There's some big influencers who are saying they're going to come out from around the country to attend. People like Brandon Strock, the gay who strayed. And just earlier today, Sean Hannity actually posted about the event. He posted the graphic for the March for Trump. So as soon as this went up, the march obviously started getting a lot more traction, started getting a lot more attention on social media. And crazy enough, something happened to the organizers. So I'm going to try to explain this well. Ryan Fournier, who's another social media influencer on Twitter, he tweeted earlier, Eventbrite shut down the March for Trump DC event page and emailed everyone saying that it was canceled. But it was never canceled, and it appears that big tech is out to take down the president. I looked into this a little bit more, and the organizers actually a woman named Amy Kremer. She is Kramer. It's spelled Kremer, but Amy Kramer, and she actually is one of the co-founders of Women for Trump, and she's a member of the Georgia GOP. And I went to her Twitter, and she confirmed this. She said Eventbrite shut down the event, emailed everyone it was canceled, and she actually included an email that she received. But can you imagine this, Steve? That you go and you post that there's an event, and that Eventbrite now goes out on your behalf and emails everyone who has RSVP'd to the event, telling them that it has been canceled. This isn't saying, hey, these people violated our terms, we're going to pull the event, or just not allow them to be on our platform, but to actually email people and say that the event was canceled even though it wasn't.
Let me understand this. This is the March for Trump on Saturday, right?
Yes, correct.
Amy Kramer, and Amy is one of the original co-founders of the Tea Party movement and the Tea Party Patriots, I think it was.
Yes.
And I think she eventually was Tea Party Nation she launched. You're telling me that, and because we're going to have Bannon on here at the end of the week, I think in studio, that event that's scheduled for Saturday, that was up online, they pulled it down?
So the event had its own event page, and normally a lot of times big tech has shut down these kind of pro-Trump events. In California, we had a number of, anti-shutdown rallies and protests, and both Eventbrite and Facebook would regularly just delete these pages, so it looked as if the event was not there. However, this is different. This isn't just deleting the events page. What they've done is actually email every single person that RSVP'd and told them that it was canceled. That's different than saying, hey, we don't support what you're doing. You can't use our private platform to promote your event. This is lying to people and saying that the event has been canceled when it has not been canceled.
So let's just get it straight, though. Besides them trying to depress, this is good news for everybody. Remember what's going on here. All the tech platforms are trying to shut you down. Why? They don't want to show any support for President Trump. They want you all to kind of get in line with what their narrative is. We're not going to do it. So it's a good thing that they're trying to do this. It's not honest. It's not fair. But hey, the world is not honest and the world is not fair. You're going to have to fight for this. You're going to have to fight for it every second because it's just not going to be handed to you. But there's going to be a rally this weekend. Do we know what the details are of that right now?
Let me pull up that thing from Hannity. I think on here, the details of it. It says Washington, D.C., November 4th, 2020 at 12 noon, hashtag March for Trump.
Well, not November 14th.
Or, excuse me, November 14th.
Okay.
It says TrumpMarch.com. So I assume that's where you can find more info.
And this is going to be the MAGA Million Man or whatever they're going to do.
Yes.
Okay.
They've kind of had a bunch of different
names. Can we
names.
try to pull up whatever the details of this thing are for later in the segment? Because I want to make sure we're going to push this. I'm a believer that if you do these, you ought to do them big. But other people are doing them. We're going to give 100% support. We'll try to get Amy on here. She's done an amazing job of Women for Trump. And now they've sent 100 people. They got Susie Wiles and the Florida team up in Georgia. So Georgia ought to understand the cavalry has arrived, and it is, I tell you, Susie Wiles and her team delivered Florida in 16 for Trump when we were down. She delivered a come-from-behind victory for DeSantis. When the polls the night before had his opponent up 7 points the night before, pulled that victory off. And she pulled out a historic victory in Florida this time, and particularly the convergence she had of the forces of the Hispanic, was it 47%, Jack?
Yeah.
Jack Maxey was sitting there. Jack Maxey's the head of the called shots here in the war room. He's saying, hey, we're going to get 45% of the Hispanic vote down. They may get 50%. They pulled it off. But she's in back of this. She's in back of this. Yep.
I have updates. I just pulled up their website, and it's awesome. Oh my gosh, everybody needs to go check this out.
Okay, how to get there?
TrumpMarch.com. Super easy. Basically, it's a great website. They've got all the info on there. Their mission is Democrats are scheming to disenfranchise and nullify Republican votes. It's up to the American people to stop it. And they just confirmed that they're out. They want to stand with President Trump. They want to show boots on the ground that the American people will not be stopped. Normally I'm not a huge fan of protests because I always see them as just sort of people whining in the street. But this is one instance where I think that we need to have bodies.
Well, the Tea Party movement started with these protests. You remember
Yes.
the first marches? I think the first march had 500,000 people, and people were shocked. It got people's attention big time. They were like shocked. So what are the details again, so people know it? And we'll hook up all the links. We'll send to it. What's the basic information here?
TrumpMarch.com, 12 noon this Saturday, November 14th in D.C.
Did they say where they're going to congregate?
They don't yet. That's probably intentional because
Right.
a lot of times with these things, they
Yep.
don't want the leftists to descend. So yeah, they do
Just-
have a place where you can sign up with your email.
I think I'm
directly
hearing
through
that the
their
rumor
site.
has it's going to be outside of St. John's Church, right in front of the. Hey, Adams, I'm just kidding. That's now officially the Black Lives Matter Plaza, right?
Who are we angry at? Target or Walmart?
No, we're not angry.
I'm just kidding.
Wait,
not-
can I?
yeah.
Can I also say one
Sure.
more thing? When you scroll down on
You
this
don't have to ask
site-
permission. You don't have to ask permission.
gotta jump
you're
in.
you're too polite.
I
You
have
don't
to be a little bit more aggressive
It's a
in here.
pirate ship. Pirates don't ask permission. Pirates just beg forgiveness.
And I also notice I kind of tend to do this, like raise my hand. Okay. All right. But I just have to say, so I'm scrolling down and they've got a list of all the people who've said that they're going to be in attendance. And this list is extensive, all the people that are supporting it. And it's funny because my name is on there, probably because at some point I did jump in and said, I'm going to be there. So this is really cool. They actually have the people that support and stand behind this event, the people that are going to be there.
We're going to try to have a person every show, both morning and afternoon, on the event, talking about the details. Great news, yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Greg.
Yeah, I just got a pop-up on the website. It says they will be meeting at Freedom Plaza,
Freedom Plaza. Where's Freedom Plaza?
just south
It's
of the
near the White
Metro
House.
Center.
Just okay, fine. Like where? South of the Metro Center?
Yep, the Metro Center station.
What? And that's called Freedom Plaza? It over by the White House?
Yes.
Just to the west of the FBI.
I've been to 2 protests or like marches that originated there, and then we walked
Is it
around.
down? Is it
the
down?
park.
Oh, I think I know where it is. It's down by the naval. By the. It's past the FBI, but is it
Yeah.
down Pennsylvania?
Yeah, it's
yep.
off of Pennsylvania.
Off of Pennsylvania.
There's always skateboarders there.
I know exactly because they got the ramps on the thing. I know where that plaza. Okay, so Freedom Plaza, and we don't know where they're going to march to, but we'll figure all that out. That's fantastic. This is great. Hey, if people are going to do it, let's get in back of it and let's show it. Yes, sir.
A little piece of breaking news here from Pennsylvania. This postal worker, Richard Hopkins, up in Erie, PA, apparently after having a sit-down with the postal inspectors, he has recanted his story. He is not making a comment. He will not comment on why he signed an affidavit saying that he was told to backdate documents, but now he has apparently recanted.
He recanted what? The postal worker backed off what he said?
He says that the affidavit that he signed over the weekend was not correct. So now he's now saying that they didn't ask him to do this. But to me, again,
the pressure got
this,
to him.
this just
Yeah.
adds more
Yeah.
grist to the mill.
Well, if that's the same thing, because James O'Keefe tweeted, I think, about this. He said, we have recordings of the federal agents who coerced this man through a 4-hour interrogation without representation, who stands by his original affidavit regarding backdating the ballots.
He says he stands. O'Keefe saying he stands?
This is what O'Keefe is saying.
It just came
What's
out
his
right
time?
now?
This is time 6 o'clock.
What time is this?
This was 31 minutes ago.
So they must be fighting about this right now.
I guess so.
Right. Keith knew that it was coming out, so it was just about the same time. So
Yeah.
Keith's saying that's not true?
I apparently, but I don't know. It seems like obviously
This
there's
guy's been
disagreement there.
Jack Maxey brought up the salient point today. The unions never stood up for this guy, right? He was left out there exposed. Okay, we're going to take a break. Can we bring we forget the exit music? Let's bring it up a little bit. And the this is "Fight for Hong Kong" by Miles Guo. We love this song because it's got a great refrain. Take down the CCP. We're going to get all back in that. For those of you that come in for the capital markets and for the finance, everything was triggered by this this pandemic, all the pandemic news. In fact, we're going to get back, and Jack Maxey's got an update on the vaccine. Want to hear from both the people that are comfortable with the vaccine in the live stream and hashtag War on Pandemic, and people that think this might be a little rushed. You know, Dr. Yan from Hong Kong University. I don't think she's going to take the first dose, right? She wants to hang back on that. She's not so sure about Pfizer and these guys. Also, the timing of all of it, how they came out this week and not in October. Jack Maxey's going to give us an update on everything pandemic when we return on War Room Pandemic.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
How did we get in this shape? You're listening to the granddaddy of them all, the very first program in the known world to focus on pandemic back in mid-January of this year. And the reason is we know the Chinese Communist Party. We're very familiar with China, and we knew that what was happening in Hubei province in Wuhan was a world historical event. And people mocked and ridiculed us, but we said no, the Chinese Communist Party does not shut down. Hubei province is the size of France. With the population size of France, they put that under lockdown, and they literally did a quarantine in Wuhan. Wuhan is 40% bigger than New York City. And as you remember, they were nailing people, they were nailing the doors shut in Wuhan. So we knew something was big. Jack Maxey actually bugged me on Boxing Day. That's the day after Christmas. We had done it in War Room Impeachment. Remember, we had actually pre-recorded a couple of shows, so we took a few days off. Raheem Kassam was doing a special, I think, on Boxing Day. So Jack had time on his hands and came back to me and said, hey, I'm on these sites in China. I think they got a SARS outbreak over there. And, of course, Jack's an old China hand. If you say SARS in China, people just freeze, right? That is not what happened back in the early 2000s, which was much bigger than they ever let on, right? So that was the beginning of all. And then Miles Guo, and we went up for the Lunar New Year, and Miles turns to me and goes, we're not going to do the broadcast. So I think, I go, why? He says, I don't think there's going to be a Lunar New Year. I go, what do you mean? He says, well, there's a break. They're shutting down Shanghai Disneyland, not letting the trains. Nobody's going home. I said, it's the biggest human migration. It's the biggest migration in human history every year. 500 million people go back to the provinces. And remember, for the Chinese Communist Party to do it shows weakness. Their whole shtick, the trade-off is, we'll enslave you, but we make sure that you have a job. May not pay a lot, but you got a job. So economic controls, you got to shut the country down. It's bad. Jack has followed this, and we've had the broad range of people who think it's a hoax to people who think it's a biological weapon that came out of Wuhan, and everything in between. And we've debated the Swedish model, where you're going to get herd immunity. Although, Hatfield and those guys said when we did the shows early on to do the nomenclature, because we always try to get the nomenclature and the ideas and concepts, Hatfield said in the second show, hey, it's only going to stop when you get herd immunity. It was such a rough term, but he walked us through kind of, where you are. So now Biden is saying we got dark days ahead, right? He's talking about right now working on this new task force it's going to be not just mandatory masks. It's going to be a lot of other mandatory stuff, things happening. In the White House, you got the chief of staff, Mark Meadows, has got COVID-19. Dave Bossie, the head of the fight to save it is, and Dave, everybody knows Dave and loves Dave. I love Dave like a brother. He's like a brother to me. He's a fabulous guy, a fireman, and he's got a bad heart, so he's a walking comorbidity. When he gets it, it's very serious. So Jack Maxey, we have never been a big name in these vaccines. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I do appreciate some of what the anti-vaxxers say and some of the concepts they come up with, and I think they deserve their day in court to argue their case. What I don't like about this process we've gone through, it seems to me it's been a little, I don't say slapped together. I realized they had a thing Warp Speed, and then they had other guys doing it. But I never got a feeling. I never got comfortable that people weren't putting out press releases to jack stock prices up and kick warrants in. Where all of a sudden you heard, stocks would rise, guys would get warrants and blow out of them. I just never got a sense of what was going on here. So walk us through where we are with the vaccine.
Well, you've seen a lot of information today about Pfizer talking about their new vaccine will have they perceive it to be a 90% effectiveness. Now, that effectiveness rate can really go only one way, which is down. One of the things that they have had, now they gave the vaccine to 50,000 people roughly, but only among them, about 65 of them have come down with COVID-19. Now, they're not being clear as to which of those were people with the vaccine or which of those were people with the placebo, but they're giving us a stat that implies about a 90% effectiveness rate. One of the things that to me is interesting about both the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine is that they use this messenger RNA technology where they basically take a small piece of RNA and they put it in a little lipid, piece of fat essentially ejected into your body. This tricks your own cells into creating a facsimile of the spike protein that is on the coronavirus. And so you replicate the spike protein because one of your cells or multiples of your cells have been hijacked by this vaccine. And theoretically, this will give you an immune response that will allow your body to specifically attack that. Now, one of the things that I think we all have to remember about this is that they say that they're going to have 50 million vaccines available for the American marketplace probably around the New Year, Christmas time. But while we're talking about the success of these vaccines, the FDA has not really cleared them yet. They say that they're going to ask for an emergency use authorization to begin distributing this vaccine as soon as possible. I think that some people have legitimate question marks about this, about the speed at which these things are coming out. Obviously, we're dealing with a global pandemic, but as you said, Steve, I'm sure that will raise the hackles on particularly some of the people.
Hold it. You're not telling me. You're messing with my head. They're not going to go take the emergency use authorization that FDA only has one of, the golden one, that we couldn't get on hydroxy because they gave us something else. This is going to get the emergency use authorization?
For the vaccines, yes, they are all going to get.
They're going to take the golden one?
Well, because the time required to go through the Fauci designated standardized testing would make it kind of moot. Something else I think that we should all think about, they're now saying that we have over 10 million certified infections in this country. We have heard everyone from Redfield in the middle of the summer to Gabriel Ling to you name it around the world saying that these infection rates that we see from testing could be anywhere from 3 to 10 times the amount of the tested infections. So if we have 10 million infected, and let's say it was 3 to 10 million, 10 times, that would be 30 million to 100 million. So if it was 100 million...
It could be up to a third of the nation.
Right, so a third of the nation potentially could have already been infected. So I think on an individual basis, many people are going to have to ask themselves the question, have I already been infected? Do I need this? I think one of the things that I've been saying since probably the 10th show here is we have to look at the people who are really going to be affected by this disease. We know who they are. We also know, remember, Western medicine's had their hands around this now for about 8 months. And in that 8-month period, so many of our treatment approaches have changed. For example, in the first month that we were dealing with this, they were saying that the steroids like prednisone and other things could be very, very dangerous. We now find out that these are fundamental medicine necessary to treat this and deal with the inflammation. But that was not the information that we were getting at the start. So like anything, we have had a big learning curve. And I think the key thing that everybody should realize is the vaccines are something that will be useful for many people. But it's a dangerous world out there. And we've been led to believe that somehow science can save the day every single time. And what we've seen is now they're going to have this Pfizer vaccine out, but this Pfizer vaccine has to be transported at, I believe, 40 degrees below Celsius. So it's not something that you're just going to...
Hold it, hang on. Do what?
Oh, yeah. Both these messenger RNA viruses from Moderna and Pfizer, they require actually specialized freezers that, for the most part, do not exist even in American medical facilities, let alone facilities in the third world. You're not transporting
And you're going to
something...
put this, and you're going to put this in you. This is the purpose is to take it from minus 40 degrees
Well,
Celsius.
I think it's brought to room temperature, but the thing is, the storage, it has to be kept at a very, very cold temperature.
The whole thing about this virus in the beginning was the capacity and capacity utilizations of the ICU units. Remember, we went through all that in the first couple of weeks of the show. We have a capacity problem here for the manufacturer, for the storage, for all that. Because I heard, I was seeing today that, or talking to people that said it's not going to be ready for all Americans until the spring of next year.
Probably not. But if we keep going at this pace, it looks as if some of the other vaccine candidates are equally as efficacious as the one from Pfizer, the one from Moderna. One thing I think it's very telling, considering the politics surrounding this, the people who developed the vaccine for Pfizer were a husband and wife team. And when people were coming out and saying Donald Trump deserves a lot of credit for Pfizer having gotten this done so quickly, the wife in this combo became very agitated and said, that we weren't part of Warp Speed, and that had nothing to do with us. But, of course, the chairman of Pfizer did have to come out and say, technically they did give us $1.8 billion as an advance purchase, so yes, we were. But it just shows you the depth of this orange man bad. Even the scientist, she's getting agitated, not about her virus, but about Donald Trump or his administration taking any credit for having funded it.
What about all the things that are going around today saying that the testing, what was known, I guess, Sunday night when they leaked it for the markets on Monday, everything they knew on Sunday, they knew in the next to last week of October, because it could have been released then, but it was held back so as not to help because Orange Man bad.
Well, quite frankly, everything we know about this vaccine we've known for more than a month. In fact, there's more questions than there are answers for. We've never heard what happened to the person who had adverse effects. So one of the things that we have to understand here is that politics are playing a very strong role in everything that we do in our lives. And I think it's kind of terrifying. It should be telling for thoughtful people. When politics injects itself into the hard sciences, you have a problem, Houston. And we saw it come in with the soft sciences pretending to be hard sciences.
Given what Trump, because it was not until really March or April. I mean, we were ahead of the curve. But remember, WHO didn't start calling it a pandemic, I think, until March. The media didn't start calling it a pandemic until March. It was really the president's, that weekend in Mar-a-Lago, when he came back, or maybe a president's weekend or something, he came back and addressed the nation. I think it was on the 14th of March. Then people really started to focus on it. If you look from the mid-March to today, or to October, November, for the getting of a vaccine, if you look at everything he did on the respirators, all the stuff we went through that were capacity utilization problems, they solved all that. I never thought on the campaign that he stepped into that to sell that. I would have gone bid and asked on Biden's this redonkulous plan he puts out, which is just a couple of bullet points. He didn't have a plan. He's got some bullet points, better testing, masks, but Trump's got actual complicated problems solved using the Production Act, sending field hospitals, but every vertical you have to take. And they never sold the thing of targeted interventions. Clearly, you don't need to lock down the whole nation. And we were the biggest advocates. If you're going to lock it down hard. You could do the targeted interventions to the comorbidities. That's actually the plan, but it's never articulated and it's never sold on the actions they're taking.
And also, very importantly, Stephen, I think this is one of the points that they made in Sweden many times. In a free society, you have to give the responsibility for the individual safety of that citizen to the individual citizen.
Leave it to Maxie. Go back up to the Swedes, right? To herd immunity. Take your shirts off, walk around, jump in the cold water, and give me some herd immunity.
Iron Men and wooden ships.
Iron Men and wooden ships.
Charles XII would be proud of Sweden today.
That was the brother that got rolled, okay? We're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to come back. You're in War Room Pandemic, our special. I want to thank everybody who makes this afternoon special, Real America's Voice, and of course, John Fredericks Radio Network. We give an update on everything that's going on and the fight of really the century. That is the closing, trying to close Donald Trump's victory. Mike Pompeo thinks that Secretary of State says, hey, we're doing a transition to a second term. Back in a minute.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
You're back in the War Room a moment ago. We got an update. By the way, Rudy was going to be on here, but he is tied up in very important meetings in a certain location down Pennsylvania Avenue, which is great. They're cranking away on, I know they're going to file Michigan tonight. And Greg, we got an update on Michigan?
Yep, so the Trump campaign is filing a new lawsuit in Detroit federal court arguing unequal treatment of Republican and Democratic poll watchers, and this was announced by campaign counsel Matt Morgan.
They're going to try to flip hundreds of thousands of these ballots saying they're not accurate. They're not playing small ball. This is why you see the left is trashing it nonstop on TV because they're nervous. Dershowitz thinks they got a shot here. So, and I think they got a legitimate shot. These things are not, they can't be verified. They got all mingled in. So I don't know, I don't know how this thing's going to get sorted. I don't know how you can get sorted. This is why I think the Biden campaign ought to help out here. Ought to get a little something for the effort, right? They got to help out. If Biden wants to be considered legitimate, if he wants to be considered legal, if he wants to be considered, if he wants a victory, he's got to show that these are legal ballots. People are just not going to buy it. 71 million people, and John Fredericks say there's a coming together you can feel in this movement. I realize people were depressed after because they saw victory snatched from them, but you can see it now, and we understand there's more statistical evidence. I think Sean Hannity, the president just tweeted out, Maggie, what can you read that tweet for? The President Trump is tweeting out something about Sean, he had a great tweet the other day. The Mark Levin thing on Sunday night was very informative, as only Mark Levin can be, because Mark is, I think, the most practical of the constitutional scholars and lawyers that can really explain stuff. And he had Hans on there from Heritage, and they did a great job. But what's the president tweeting out this afternoon?
He tweets, ballot corruption will be exposed tonight at 9 p.m. on Sean Hannity on Fox News.
Okay, so Fox News Sean's going to have something, and we understand from certain analysts we got working on this that there's tons of statistical analysis that are going to come out now that can be used as evidence, right, in discovery. What you need here is discovery. That is what the Biden campaign is trying to stop. And I told you early today on the show, you'll see everything about Biden you need to see if they allow discovery and support discovery by President Trump's campaign and people trying to find out what the bottom of this is.
Steve, I also think it would be important for us to give a shout out for the United States Marine Corps, who turned 245 years old today.
Wow.
I want to read a brief comment from the Commandant because I think it tells you a lot about what he's trying to say to America. He says, adapting to change and uncertainty is nothing new for Marines. It is what we have done for 245 years. And what is expected of us as the nation's force in readiness. Where others see challenges, Marines see opportunities. We do not take a knee. We will always be ready to answer the nation's call, no matter the crisis. Happy birthday, United States Marine Corps. Hoo-yah.
Fantastic. By the way, once you tee up the American crisis, I talked about Sunshine Pay. Right before we get to that, I just want to announce that we're going to be doing this, Maggie, every day from now until it launches. But the March for Trump is going to be this Saturday, November 14th, at high noon, right? The same time that he's going to get inaugurated for his second inaugural, high noon on the 20th. Book your hotel now. Book your hotel. Book your suite. Go ahead and book it. Because it's happening. You can feel it's happening. Saturday, November 14th, that's this Saturday, at 12 noon, Washington, D.C. And contrary to the misinformation put out by big tech and mainstream media, the March for Trump is on. This is the new thing they're putting out. I guess Eventbrite took it down, trying to be wise guys, as President Trump said, trying to be wise guys, and sent emails out to everybody. It only makes us stronger. The more the tech oligarchs do that, And the tech oligarchs ought to understand something. All the money in back of you is the deplorables cash, right? All the institutional money, all the pension funds, all the savings account, all the insurance policies, it's the deplorables money. And if we ever get the deplorables organized enough, we could start putting some stink eye on money managers that put it into companies that detest the deplorables. Why should the deplorables finance? Why should finance companies that detest them and do stuff like that? Why should they finance Eventbrite? Jump in here, Maggie. Don't be. You're way too. You don't need to raise your hand, and you don't need to be polite. You're in with pirates. Just grab. You just gotta, take the cookie. I do want to say it's going to be at Freedom Plaza. And Freedom Plaza in the heart of Washington, D.C., I think it's right down Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah,
right?
near the White House.
Near the White House, but it's also near the FBI headquarters. The one just kind of off to the side. I think it's by the Navy, kind of near the Navy Memorial. We'll get a map up tomorrow on the Real America's Voice in the morning show. Thomas Paine, The American Crisis. Do you have that up there, Mr. Jack Max?
I do.
I turn now to the conscience.
Published December 19th, 1776. People were not in the best of mood that the Revolutionary Army was retreating across New Jersey, not in such good shape. They had several more hard years ahead of them, and Thomas Paine knew that the people needed to hear something to inspire them. So he wrote The American Crisis, and this is from it. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives us everything its value. Heaven knows how to put a proper price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated. Stay in the fight, keep your chins up. This is not over till we say it's over, people.
Wow, it's happening. When everybody get their chins up. We're filing in Michigan probably tonight. We filed in Pennsylvania. There's a big fight out in Arizona for every vote. They're in the counting rooms right now. They're down trying to sort out this mess in Georgia. We're going to win down there. We just got North Carolina today. We're going to get Alaska tomorrow. We're closing. Real Clear Politics. The guys are Tom Bevan and the posse. They have not called this, right? They're at 259. Nevada, got DOJ out there in Nevada. Got DOJ up in Pennsylvania. Going to be big news tonight on Hannity. Michigan, Wisconsin. It's happening. Just put your shoulder to the wheel. We're not going to back up 1 inch. This is not going to be stolen from the American people. It's not going to be stolen from future generations. We're going to do it here and now.
Not on our watch.
To tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. You'll be back in the war room.